The vast expanse of Sector Xylar 9 stretched quietly under the distant glow of twin suns. Alien mining stations dotted the planets like tiny metallic stars, and the Zorath Empire believed their control over this sector was absolute. Suddenly, sensors aboard the Zorath monitoring outpost on Krython 5 picked up an anomaly. A massive object moving at speeds that defied conventional physics. Officers stared at the readings in disbelief. It was a Terran warship, but one that had no known design in their archives. Its silhouette was unlike anything recorded before, sleek, angular, and bristling with weapons that seemed more advanced than even the top Zorath destroyers. Panic rippled through the outpost as alarms blared across the control rooms. Admiral Vorak himself was immediately alerted, his clawed fingers drumming on the holotable, scanning the incoming data. Every sensor confirmed the impossible. The warship emerged from the shadow of the Draconis Nebula, a dense cloud of cosmic dust that made detection extremely difficult. It moved silently at first, as if it were observing, waiting. The alien observers struggled to understand whether this was a reconnaissance mission, an attack, or something entirely different. Vorak's tactical officers argued fiercely over possible courses of action. Should they send scouts, prepare the fleets, or wait for the Terran ship to reveal its intentions? But before any decision could be finalized, the ship executed a sudden burst maneuver, moving with a precision that outmatched even the most experienced Zorath pilots. Sensors struggled to keep up, and reports of destroyed probe drones began to trickle in. The USS Aegis, as it would later be known, remained entirely silent. It did not broadcast identification. It did not respond to hails. Yet every movement suggested intelligence and purpose. Back on Krython 5, the population of the mining stations watched in awe and fear as shadowy glimpses of the vessel flickered across the planet's communications networks. It was a ghost ship, appearing out of nowhere, striking fear into those who thought themselves untouchable. Admiral Vorak ordered the station to activate planetary defenses, to lock onto the vessel and track it. But every attempt to target the ship failed. Its energy shields seemed to absorb or deflect incoming signals. Every cannon shot fired at it passed through a haze of shimmering light, leaving the ship unharmed. Terran colonies across known space had no record of such a vessel. And it became clear even to Zorath intelligence analysts that this was not a standard Terran craft. The design suggested experimental technology, perhaps a prototype, or an entirely new class of warship. Whispers began to circulate among the Zorath ranks that humanity might have secretly developed a ship capable of outmatching entire fleets. Fear and curiosity combined in equal measure. Back on the Aegis, Captain Alara Voss calmly observed the sector's holographic projections. Her crew moved with silent efficiency. Engineers adjusted energy flows while tactical officers plotted potential engagement zones. The ship's AI, Athena, analyzed every Zorath sensor ping and countered it before any actionable threat could materialize. As the Aegis approached the orbit of Krython 5, it conducted what seemed like a casual survey of the planet, scanning for resources, installations, and fleet positions. But every move was carefully calculated. The Terran ship avoided civilian zones, focused entirely on military assets, and demonstrated a level of restraint that puzzled the Zorath. It was a weapon. Yes, but one guided by intelligence and strategy. The mining colonies whispered tales of the ghost ship that had appeared from nowhere. A Terran warship that could destroy anything, yet choose not to harm the innocent. Admiral Vorak convened a war council, pacing back and forth across the bridge of his flagship, Dread Sovereign. The threat was clear. If this ship engaged, the Zorath Empire could lose a critical sector before reinforcements arrived. Throughout the night, the Aegis remained in orbit, observing, testing, analyzing, yet revealing nothing of its true capabilities. Its presence alone was enough to destabilize the Zorath command structure. Reports of its sudden appearances in other parts of the sector reached Vorak via subspace messages. No patrol could find it. No sensor grid could lock onto it permanently. And by dawn, when scouts finally reported its location, it had vanished again into the cosmic shadows, leaving panic, fear, and endless speculation behind. The legend of the unknown Terran warship was born. A ghost in the stars, a mystery that would challenge the might of the Zorath Empire, and mark the beginning of a history that no one would forget. A Zorath scouting fleet of 7 heavily armed dreadnoughts approached the coordinates where the mysterious Terran ship had last been detected. Sensors were on high alert as each vessel scanned for any sign of movement. The fleet advanced cautiously, knowing that the unknown Terran warship could strike at any moment. Admiral Vorak had ordered maximum vigilance, but even he felt a twinge of unease. The reports from Krython 5 described the ship as faster, smarter, and more lethal than anything previously encountered. As the dreadnoughts closed in, energy readings spiked suddenly. The USS Aegis appeared out of nowhere, emerging from the shadow of a dense asteroid belt like a phantom. The dreadnoughts scrambled to target it, but their weapon systems lagged behind the ship's speed. Captain Alara Voss observed the Zorath fleet calmly, her crew executing maneuvers with the precision of a well-oiled machine. The ship's AI, Athena, calculated angles, distances, and energy outputs faster than any human could, allowing the Aegis to stay out of harm's way while preparing for tactical strikes. The first shots fired by the Zorath fleet were deflected by the Aegis energy shields, shimmering like liquid silver under the harsh light of Krython 5's suns. The dreadnoughts had underestimated both the technology and the tactics of this single vessel. The Aegis responded with a controlled barrage of plasma torpedoes, hitting key engines on 2 of the dreadnoughts and leaving them drifting helplessly. Panic spread through the Zorath bridge crews as alarms blared and systems failed. Admiral Vorak ordered the fleet to retreat, but the Terran ship was already anticipating their maneuvers. It moved with a fluidity and foresight that seemed almost unnatural. Captain Voss executed a series of evasive maneuvers, weaving between asteroid fragments while maintaining targeting solutions on the remaining dreadnoughts. Every attack the Zorath launched was met with perfect counters. The dreadnoughts began to suffer heavy damage, their shields collapsing one after another, and the Zorath officers could only watch as their fleet was decimated without fully understanding how. Reports reached Vorak that the remaining ships had lost coordination, some drifting aimlessly, others retreating under heavy fire. The Terran warship demonstrated a combination of speed, firepower, and tactical intelligence that made a single vessel more dangerous than an entire fleet. Back on the USS Aegis, Captain Voss remained composed, issuing precise commands with quiet authority. Tactical Officer Ryan Cade monitored the energy outputs and suggested optimal firing sequences, while Engineer Talia Sarin adjusted shield harmonics to maximize defensive efficiency. The ship's internal systems worked in perfect harmony, as if every crew member and AI was part of a single consciousness. The Zorath fleet struggled to adapt, sending distress signals across the sector. But the Terran ship avoided detection and interception. Its attacks were methodical, crippling the enemy while causing minimal collateral damage. The awe and fear of the Zorath forces grew with every passing moment. The engagement lasted for several hours, each move of the Aegis leaving the Zorath fleet in disarray. Entire squads of fighters were disabled before they could engage. Dreadnought after dreadnought lost power, and Admiral Vorak realized that conventional tactics were useless against this unknown warship. The USS Aegis operated with the patience of a predator, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The Zorath finally began to retreat in disorder, leaving the Terran ship unchallenged in the sector. Across the colonies, reports of the ghostly Terran warship spread rapidly. Many humans were unaware of its existence. Yet the fear it instilled in the Zorath Empire confirmed that it had already changed the balance of power. As the Aegis moved away from Krython 5, Captain Voss and her crew began analyzing data from the encounter. The ship had engaged a full enemy fleet with no casualties. The AI had calculated hundreds of possible attack and defense patterns in seconds, and the crew had executed them flawlessly. Admiral Vorak's communications warned other sectors of the unknown Terran threat. And the Zorath began scrambling to find any intelligence that could explain how a single human ship had destroyed 7 dreadnoughts. Whispers spread that this was no ordinary Terran ship. It was a prototype. Possibly an experimental vessel designed for independent operations, the legend of the USS Aegis grew as it disappeared once again into the dark reaches of space, leaving fear, confusion, and respect behind. The USS Aegis moved silently through the dark expanse of space towards Sector Yelith 3, where a large Zorath supply convoy was en route to reinforce their front lines. Captain Alara Voss and her crew had already studied the convoy's projected path using data collected during previous encounters. Every detail from fuel loads to shield frequencies was analyzed by the ship's AI, Athena, to plan a precise strike. The convoy consisted of 12 massive transport ships, escorted by 6 heavily armed frigates. The Zorath believed their numbers would make them untouchable. Yet none of them anticipated the arrival of a single Terran warship that could outmaneuver and outthink their entire formation. As the Aegis approached, its engines glowed faintly with a low-energy signature designed to avoid early detection. The first sign of the Aegis's presence was a series of false sensor signals that confused the convoy's AI. The Zorath frigates scrambled to identify threats, but every ping, scan, and visual observation returned inconclusive results. Captain Voss issued calm but decisive orders. The Aegis adjusted its trajectory to stay outside heavy fire range while aligning torpedo launchers with the convoy's critical points. Tactical Officer Ryan Cade highlighted weak points in the transport ships, engines, and shields, while Engineer Talia Sarin monitored energy flow to ensure shields could withstand any retaliation. Within moments, the Aegis fired a controlled barrage of plasma torpedoes aimed at immobilizing the convoy without destroying valuable cargo. Explosions rocked the transports as engines failed and navigation systems went offline. Panic spread among the Zorath crews as they struggled to respond to an unseen attacker. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the Aegis executed its maneuvers with flawless precision, weaving between asteroids and energy fields to avoid the convoy's defensive fire. The Zorath frigates attempted to coordinate counterattacks, but their targeting systems repeatedly failed due to the ship's advanced electronic countermeasures. Athena predicted every possible course of action and adjusted the Aegis's position in real time. Captain Voss remained focused on minimizing casualties among cargo crews, targeting only mechanical systems critical to mobility. Several transports drifted helplessly in space while their escorts tried desperately to regroup. The Terran crew demonstrated exceptional discipline, each movement purposeful and coordinated, reinforcing the growing reputation of the Aegis as more than a warship. It was a tactical genius on its own. As the convoy faltered, Captain Voss issued orders to disable their communications to prevent the Zorath from calling reinforcements. Athena intercepted subspace transmissions, jamming them while simultaneously feeding false data to enemy sensors. The Terran warship moved silently through the gaps between the transports, striking key engines with pinpoint accuracy. The Aegis avoided direct engagement with the frigates until they were isolated and vulnerable. One by one, escort ships were rendered inoperable, unable to defend the convoy or regroup. Admiral Vorak's warnings to the sector arrived too late. The damage had already been done. Reports reached Zorath High Command that an unknown Terran ship had incapacitated an entire convoy without loss to the enemy. Disbelief and fear spread rapidly. On board the Aegis, Captain Voss remained calm, giving orders that balanced aggression with strategic restraint. Every crew member understood their role, from engineers adjusting power conduits to weapons officers preparing torpedo arrays. Athena provided real-time analytics on energy consumption, shield efficiency, and enemy behavior. The Aegis moved like a single organism, striking where most effective and disappearing before the Zorath could retaliate. The success of the mission demonstrated the terrifying efficiency of the Terran warship. The convoy's loss caused immediate logistical problems for the Zorath, delaying troop movements and resupply missions to multiple sectors. The Terrans had achieved a decisive tactical victory without revealing the ship to the broader galaxy. As the Aegis completed its mission, it left behind a trail of disabled ships floating helplessly in space. The transport vessels could not complete their mission, and the remaining Zorath escorts limped back to Sector Xylar 9 to report the encounter. Admiral Vorak's frustration grew as he realized conventional tactics would not stop this single Terran ship. The success of the strike spread quickly among Terran colonies, though most remained unaware of the specifics. Intelligence officers studied patterns of the Aegis maneuvers, seeking to understand its technology and tactics. The ship had demonstrated that a single Well-coordinated Terran warship could cripple enemy operations far beyond its size or number. The legend of the Aegis continued to grow as a ghost ship that appeared and disappeared at will, leaving strategic devastation in its path. Even after the convoy was disabled, the Aegis did not linger. Captain Voss charted a course through less monitored regions of space, ensuring that no enemy ship could track or intercept it. Athena continued scanning for emerging threats, preparing contingency plans for any potential encounter. The crew reflected briefly on the precision of the operation, aware that their actions had shifted the balance in favor of Terran forces. Reports of the unknown Terran warship had reached every Zorath fleet command, planting fear and uncertainty. The Aegis once again vanished into the darkness of space, leaving behind only the disabled convoy, stunned enemy commanders, and a growing legend that no one in the galaxy would soon forget. Admiral Vorak convened an emergency war council aboard his flagship, Dread Sovereign, after receiving reports of the devastating convoy attack in Sector Yelith 3. The Zorath Empire could no longer ignore the threat posed by the unknown Terran warship. He ordered the assembly of the Zorath Battle Armada of 43 ships drawn from sectors Xylar 7 and Xylar 9. Every dreadnought, cruiser, and frigate was to converge on the last known location of the USS Aegis. The fleet was the largest ever deployed in the sector, and Vorak personally took command, determined to destroy the Terran ship once and for all. Zorath engineers and tacticians worked tirelessly, plotting multiple attack formations designed to overwhelm even the most advanced vessel. The stakes could not have been higher. Failure was unacceptable. The Aegis had already detected unusual energy spikes from the assembling Zorath fleet. Captain Alara Voss and Tactical Officer Ryan Cade began analyzing the fleet's formation, identifying weak points and calculating possible escape routes. The Aegis's AI, Athena, ran millions of simulations in seconds, predicting Vorak's likely strategies. The Terran crew prepared for battle, securing all systems and running diagnostics on weaponry and shields. Engineers like Talia Saren ensured maximum efficiency of the plasma torpedoes and energy shielding. The crew moved with silent confidence, fully aware that the lives of billions in Terran space could be affected by the outcome of this engagement. As the Zorath fleet approached, the Aegis remained undetected at first, using the dense Draconis belt for cover. Admiral Vorak, confident in his superior numbers, ordered a direct assault, expecting the Terran ship to attempt an escape or show weakness. The Aegis instead executed a series of precision maneuvers, weaving through the asteroid field while maintaining optimal firing angles on the enemy fleet. Plasma torpedoes launched from hidden positions struck dreadnoughts and cruisers simultaneously, their shields flickering and then collapsing under the accuracy of the strikes. Panic spread through the Zorath command as ships began to collide with asteroid fragments or drift helplessly. The Aegis moved like a ghost, appearing suddenly in one quadrant of the battlefield before vanishing into another. Captain Voss issued calm, precise orders, her crew responding instantly to every new development. Athena continuously analyzed enemy movements, predicting and countering Vorak's strategies before they could be executed. The Zorath fleet, despite overwhelming numbers, found themselves unable to concentrate fire or coordinate maneuvers. Their attacks were ineffective, their sensors jammed and confused, and dreadnoughts that tried to flank the Aegis were destroyed before completing their maneuvers. Admiral Vorak felt the first real sting of doubt as reports of losses flooded in. Hours passed with relentless tactical precision. The Aegis struck at critical systems of the largest Zorath ships, disabling engines, weapon arrays, and communications. Each strike was calculated to maximize damage while avoiding unnecessary civilian or environmental impact. The Terran crew demonstrated ingenuity, courage, and teamwork beyond what any Zorath officer had imagined. Scattered pockets of Zorath forces attempted desperate counterattacks, but each move had already been anticipated and neutralized. The ghost ship's ability to strike and vanish left the enemy fleet disoriented. The Zorath began to lose cohesion. Dreadnoughts isolated from the main fleet fell one by one. As the battle raged near the asteroid belt, the Aegis created illusions of its presence in multiple locations at once. Using advanced holographic decoys combined with electronic warfare, Vorak's fleet fired at shadows, wasting precious ammunition and exposing themselves to tactical strikes. Captain Voss and Ryan Cade coordinated a sequence of attacks that incapacitated over half of the Zorath Armada within minutes. Talia Serene ensured that shields remained at maximum efficiency, while energy consumption was optimized for sustained engagement. The level of coordination between human crew and AI surpassed anything previously seen. Each attack was not just a strike, but a demonstration of strategy and discipline. By the end of the engagement, the Zorath Armada had been shattered, dreadnoughts adrift, cruisers crippled, and the survivors in full retreat towards Sector Xylar 7. Admiral Vorak, furious and humiliated, realized that conventional fleet tactics could never overcome the Aegis. Terran colonies that intercepted communications about the battle began to see the true scale of the unknown warship's capabilities. Whispers of the ghostly Terran vessel spread like wildfire. Inspiring hope among humans and fear among alien forces, the USS Aegis remained intact, battle-ready, and completely unharmed. Its presence alone had shifted the balance of power in the region. After the battle, Captain Voss held a brief debrief with her officers, reviewing the engagement and gathering data for future operations. Athena compiled extensive battle reports, noting enemy weaknesses and potential improvements for upcoming missions. The crew reflected on their success, knowing that they had not only defeated overwhelming odds, but also sent a clear message to the Zorath Empire. The legend of the Aegis grew further as it disappeared once again into the dark expanse of space, leaving behind a broken enemy fleet, shocked commanders, and an emerging story that would echo throughout the galaxy for decades. Captain Alara Voss stood on the bridge of the USS Aegis, watching the stars streak past as the ship moved silently through deep space. The recent battles against the Zorath fleets had tested every skill and strategy she possessed. Yet the crew had performed flawlessly, their coordination a testament to months of rigorous training and their trust in one another. Tactical Officer Ryan Cade adjusted the targeting arrays, ensuring that every system remained in peak condition, while Engineer Talia Serene monitored energy flows to keep shields and weapons balanced for maximum efficiency. Athena, the ship's advanced AI, calculated thousands of potential scenarios, simulating enemy fleet movements and counterattacks. Every crew member acted as a single unit, each aware of their critical role in the operations of the unknown Terran warship. News of the Aegis's victories spread quickly through Zorath channels, terrifying the alien forces across multiple sectors. Whispers of a ghost ship capable of dismantling entire fleets circulated among their officers. Admiral Vorak found himself increasingly frustrated and desperate, realizing that no conventional strategy could defeat a vessel that seemed always 2 steps ahead. Terran intelligence intercepted some of the communications and shared them cautiously with Star Command. But details of the ship remained classified. The humans were still largely unaware of the capabilities of the Aegis, yet the reputation of Captain Voss and her crew began to grow in secret among strategic circles. The Aegis continued its operations across sectors Xylar 9 and Ilith 3, performing surgical strikes against Zorath supply lines and weakly defended outposts. Every mission demonstrated not just the ship's firepower, but also the ingenuity and bravery of its crew. Captain Voss made every decision with careful consideration, avoiding unnecessary destruction and focusing on disabling enemy systems efficiently. Athena worked in tandem with the crew to anticipate threats, reroute power to shields in critical moments, and optimize weapon deployment. Each engagement strengthened the crew's confidence and the ship's reputation, creating an aura of invincibility that spread even among the Zorath allies. As the Aegis struck at key points in enemy space, reports emerged from captured or disabled Zorath vessels about the human captain and her crew, describing their precision, courage, and near-perfect coordination. The Terran warship had become more than a weapon. It was a symbol of human ingenuity and resourcefulness. Star Command began to study the encounters carefully. Considering the implications of the ship's technology and strategy, discussions arose about whether this vessel could be a prototype for a new class of warship capable of independent operations across hostile space. Captain Voss remained modest, focusing only on the mission and the safety of her crew, fully aware of the stakes and the attention they were attracting. The Aegis's successes forced the Zorath Empire into defensive postures, delaying fleet deployments and forcing the enemy to reconsider their strategies. Each disabled fleet or destroyed convoy became a testament to the combination of human skill, teamwork, and technological advancement. The crew's resourcefulness extended beyond combat, as engineers repaired minor damages on the move, tactical officers adapted to shifting conditions, and the AI calculated risks that even the most experienced humans could not fully anticipate. The Aegis was a living example of Terran determination and intelligence, its reputation spreading faster than the ship could be tracked. Captain Voss also worked to maintain morale among the crew, knowing that long-term operations in hostile space could strain even the most disciplined forces. She encouraged cooperation, recognized achievements, and ensured that every officer and enlisted member understood the importance of their contribution. Athena provided simulations and training exercises in downtime, sharpening their skills and keeping them prepared for any unexpected encounter. The crew became a tightly knit team, each member confident in their roles, their trust in one another, reinforcing the ship's efficiency and effectiveness in battle. Meanwhile, Admiral Vorak continued to plot ways to counter the Aegis, but every plan he devised was anticipated and countered by the combination of Voss's strategy and Athena's calculations. The Terran ship seemed untouchable, its presence alone enough to destabilize enemy operations. Scattered units of the Zorath fleet were forced to withdraw, leaving key sectors lightly defended. Reports of these events began to reach distant Terran colonies, inspiring hope and determination among human populations that had long feared alien dominance. The Aegis and its crew were not only fighting battles, but also changing the perception of humanity across the galaxy. Captain Voss reflected on the missions, understanding that the real strength of the Aegis lay not only in technology, but in the unity of its crew. The trust, intelligence, and courage of the people aboard made the ship more than a machine. It was a strategic force capable of rewriting the rules of engagement. Each victory reinforced the legend of the ghostly Terran Warship, and with every passing sector, the crew became more confident that they were not only defending humanity, but also defining what it meant to be human in a galaxy filled with uncertainty and danger. The Aegis had begun to cement its legacy as a symbol of human resilience, skill, and ingenuity. The USS Aegis glided through the darkness of space toward the outer defenses of the Zorath Empire, its destination marked by strategically important fortresses on planets Krython 5, Yelith 3, and Voral 2. Captain Alara Voss studied the holographic displays on the bridge, analyzing enemy positions, shield strengths, and fleet patrol schedules. The crew moved with silent precision, each member aware that the success of the mission could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Athena, the ship's AI, calculated millions of possible approaches, attack vectors, and retreat paths, ensuring that the Aegis could strike hard and vanish before enemy reinforcements could respond. Every action was deliberate, every movement optimized for maximum effect. As the Aegis approached Krython 5, it first disabled surveillance satellites and early warning systems. Leaving the Zorath defenders blind to the ship's movements, Captain Voss instructed Tactical Officer Ryan Cade to target the fortress' main energy conduits, while Engineer Talia Saren prepared plasma torpedoes and ensured shields could withstand any retaliatory fire. The Aegis struck with precision, detonating the fortress's energy cores and sending shockwaves through the surrounding defensive structures. The Zorath were caught completely off guard, panic spreading among their commanders. As critical installations failed in rapid succession, the human crew moved efficiently, avoiding unnecessary damage to civilian zones, demonstrating skill and discipline beyond expectation. From Yelith 3 to Voral 2, the Aegis continued its surgical strikes, targeting supply depots, communication relays, and orbital defense platforms. Every action carefully calculated to cripple the Zorath's ability to reinforce their front lines. Dreadnoughts and frigates attempting to intercept were neutralized before they could engage. Athena anticipated enemy maneuvers in real time, adjusting shield harmonics and energy distribution to counter incoming attacks. The Terran crew executed maneuvers that combined stealth, speed, and firepower, each strike leaving the enemy confused and demoralized. The Zorath fleet commanders realized too late that their numerical advantage could not overcome the precision and intelligence of a single warship. The Aegis' reputation spread rapidly, both among Terran colonies and Zorath fleets. Whispers of a ghostly Terran ship capable of crippling entire sectors circulated through military channels. Admiral Vorak struggled to contain the situation, his fleets retreating to defensive positions while attempting to understand how a single vessel could operate so effectively against multiple fortresses. Captain Voss coordinated with Star Command to ensure that every strike reinforced Terran strategic objectives, disabling enemy infrastructure without unnecessary destruction. The missions were not only military victories, but also psychological, instilling fear among the Zorath and hope among humans. During the engagement near Voral II, the Aegis encountered a group of Zorath capital ships attempting to regroup. Captain Voss executed an unorthodox maneuver, diving into the debris of a shattered moon to approach undetected. Athena simulated all possible counterattacks in seconds, allowing the crew to strike the enemy fleet simultaneously from multiple angles. Torpedoes hit engines, shields, and communication arrays, leaving dreadnoughts adrift and disorganized. The Zorath attempted a coordinated counterstrike, but their timing and coordination were no match for the Aegis' predictive tactics. Each move of the human ship left the enemy reacting instead of acting, demonstrating not just power, but superior strategy. Throughout these operations, the crew of the Aegis demonstrated remarkable teamwork. Engineers repaired minor battle damage mid-mission. Tactical officers adapted to rapidly changing conditions. And Captain Voss maintained calm leadership, reinforcing trust and confidence among her officers. Every mission strengthened the crew's cohesion, and Athena continuously updated their knowledge of Zorath tactics, allowing the Aegis to stay several steps ahead of the enemy. The Terran ship's combination of advanced technology, skilled crew, and superior strategy made it a formidable force, capable of operating alone against superior numbers. The Aegis attacks forced the Zorath Empire to divert resources from other sectors, leaving key areas lightly defended. Terran forces in adjacent regions used the opportunity to regroup, fortify positions, and plan future operations. The efficiency of the Ghost Ship allowed humanity to gain momentum without committing entire fleets. Captain Voss ensured that her crew remained vigilant, avoiding overconfidence and maintaining readiness for any unforeseen threats. The psychological impact on the Zorath Empire was profound, as even their most confident commanders questioned the possibility of defeating a single Terran vessel. After completing strikes on the 3 planets, the Aegis retreated into unmonitored regions of space, leaving behind damaged fortresses, disabled fleets, and a panicked enemy. Captain Voss and her crew analyzed the engagement, identifying successes and areas for further improvement. Athena compiled extensive reports for Star Command, detailing enemy weaknesses, technology, and potential strategies. The missions had shifted the balance of power in the sector, showing that Terran forces, even with limited resources, could challenge and dominate the Zorath Empire. The legend of the USS Aegis continued to grow, its ghostly presence inspiring hope among humans and fear among the alien fleets. The news of the USS Aegis's victories spread across Terran space, though much of the general population remained unaware of the full extent. Star Command quietly celebrated the tactical genius of Captain Alara Voss and her crew. Understanding that the Aegis had done what entire fleets could not, the ship had disrupted Zorath supply lines, destroyed critical fortresses, and forced the enemy into defensive positions across multiple sectors. Engineers and scientists began analyzing intercepted Zorath data to learn about the technology the ship had faced, studying energy shields, weapon systems, and fleet maneuvers. The information gathered promised to influence Terran ship designs for decades, and the Aegis had become a living example of what human ingenuity and teamwork could achieve. Within the crew of the Aegis, morale was high but tempered with discipline. Captain Voss reminded everyone that while their victories were significant, the mission was ongoing. Every engagement required focus and precision. Athena continued to run simulations for potential future encounters, mapping Zorath fleet positions, sector patrols, and possible ambush points. The crew rehearsed tactics, trained on emergency protocols, and remained ready to strike at critical points whenever necessary, even in moments of relative calm. The sense of purpose and unity among the crew strengthened, making them not only effective in battle, but resilient under pressure. Across human colonies, whispers of the Aegis began to circulate. Stories told by merchants, pilots, and intelligence officers spoke of a ghostly Terran warship that appeared suddenly, struck decisively, and vanished without a trace. The legend of the ship inspired hope in distant colonies that had long feared Zorath domination. Even isolated systems began to prepare for defense, training militias, and upgrading local fleet patrols. Terran military planners studied the Aegis operations carefully, realizing that a single well-equipped, well-crewed, and intelligently commanded warship could achieve strategic results far beyond its size. The success of the Aegis became a blueprint for combining human skill, AI assistance, and tactical foresight. The Zorath Empire, meanwhile, struggled to respond to the unexpected threat. Admiral Vorak faced pressure from his superiors, questioning how the Terran forces had achieved such decisive victories with a single ship. Intelligence officers scrambled to locate the Aegis and understand its technology. But every attempt failed. The ship moved unpredictably, using stealth maneuvers, asteroid fields, and electronic countermeasures to avoid detection. The ghost ship had turned the balance of power in the sector, forcing the Zorath to reconsider their entire defensive strategy. Fear and uncertainty spread through their fleets as commanders realized that their superior numbers could be neutralized by strategy, skill, and technology they had underestimated. Captain Voss continued to lead with calm precision, reviewing the results of previous missions, discussing strategy with Tactical Officer Ryan Cade, and monitoring the ship's systems alongside engineer Talia Serin. The Aegis was not just a weapon of destruction, but a platform for learning and adaptation. Every encounter provided data that improved performance, refined tactics, and enhanced crew readiness. Athena compiled all information into comprehensive reports for Star Command, suggesting new areas for operations and potential threats. The integration of human judgment and AI prediction made the ship unstoppable in its current operational framework. The Aegis's presence also influenced Terran politics and society. Whispers of the ship's capabilities encouraged investment in research and fleet expansion. Colonies began sharing intelligence, resources, and technology to support broader defense objectives. Human engineers studied disabled Zorath vessels to reverse engineer weapon systems and energy technology. The victories of the Aegis became a symbol of Terran resilience, skill, and courage, inspiring confidence that humanity could face the Zorath Empire on equal footing and even achieve victories against overwhelming odds. While continuing its patrols and operations, the Aegis remained a ghost to enemy forces, appearing suddenly to strike supply lines or orbital defenses, then vanishing into deep space before reinforcements could respond. Captain Voss emphasized strategic restraint, avoiding unnecessary conflict while maximizing disruption of the enemy. Every mission further cemented the ship's legend, and every successful engagement sent ripples of fear and respect throughout the Zorath Empire. The Terran ship had become more than a warship. It was a symbol, a tactical marvel, and a psychological weapon. As months passed, the Aegis' reputation inspired new fleet designs, better training programs, and innovations in AI-assisted tactics. Star Command began planning additional ships using lessons learned from the Ghost ship. Captain Voss and her crew were recognized quietly with awards and commendations, though much of the galaxy remained unaware of their full story. The ship's presence shifted not only military strategy, but the very perception of what humanity could achieve in interstellar warfare. The Aegis had begun to leave a permanent mark on history, showing that skill, ingenuity, and teamwork could overcome even the most formidable foes. And the legend of the Terran Ghost Warship continued to grow, inspiring hope and fear across the stars. Decades had passed since the USS Aegis first appeared in the dark reaches of Sector Xylar 9, yet its legend continued to grow across Terran space and beyond. The ship that had once silently emerged from the shadows to strike decisive blows against the Zorath Empire was now immortalized in history. Stories of Captain Alara Voss and her crew circulated through military academies, intelligence briefings, and even among civilians. Their courage, skill, and precision had become a standard for all future generations. Historians noted that the Aegis had not only shifted the balance of power during its time, but had also changed the way humans thought about strategy, warfare, and interstellar defense. Survivors of the Zorath Empire spoke of the ghostly Terran warship with a mixture of fear and respect, recounting how a single ship, guided by a small but brilliant crew, had destroyed fleets, disabled fortresses, and disrupted entire sectors. Admiral Vorax reports to his superiors detailed the frustration of fighting a force that seemed always 2 steps ahead. The Aegis combination of advanced technology, human ingenuity, and AI guidance had created a weapon no enemy could predict. Terran strategists studied these accounts closely, learning lessons that would influence fleet designs, AI integration, and training programs for decades. The ship's engagements became case studies in tactical brilliance, risk management, and psychological impact. In Terran society, the Aegis was celebrated as more than a warship. It was a symbol of human resilience, creativity, and determination. Schools used its story to teach lessons about courage and teamwork. Museums displayed holograms and models of the ship, and young engineers studied the tactics of Captain Voss and her crew to inspire future innovation. Star Command quietly ensured that the ship's technology remained a secret while disseminating lessons learned to improve fleet effectiveness. The legend of the Aegis inspired new classes of warships, faster, smarter, and more adaptable, each designed to carry forward the principles demonstrated by the Ghost ship in its campaigns against the Zorath Empire. The crew of the Aegis had long since retired, yet their actions remained relevant. Officers like Ryan Cade and Talia Saren were remembered as pioneers of tactical coordination and engineering excellence. Athena, the ship's AI, had been decommissioned and archived, but its design influenced every new Terran combat system. Every innovation in predictive tactics and energy management drew from the lessons learned aboard the Ghost ship. Captain Voss herself became a revered figure, her calm decisiveness, foresight, and humanity serving as a model for generations of officers. She was remembered not only for victories in battle, but for the way she inspired her crew to achieve the impossible. Even among alien civilizations, the memory of the Aegis endured. Zorath commanders continued to reference the ship when planning fleet movements and defensive strategies. It had changed their understanding of interstellar warfare, demonstrating that a small, well-coordinated, and intelligently commanded force could challenge an empire. The psychological impact of the Aegis lasted longer than the physical damage it caused, instilling caution and respect in enemies and allies alike. Sectors once dominated by fear of the Zorath slowly gained confidence, knowing that humans had proven their capability to act decisively and effectively under pressure. The legend of the Aegis also influenced the way humanity approached exploration and defense. Missions were planned with careful strategy, crew coordination, and AI support in mind. The principles demonstrated during its campaigns became doctrine for interstellar operations. Humans began to believe that intelligence, preparation, and courage could overcome even overwhelming odds. Colonies and fleets organized with this philosophy in mind, and every new warship carried a piece of the Ghost ship's legacy, whether through technology, training, or spirit. The USS Aegis had become more than a vessel. It had become the embodiment of what humanity could achieve when talent, discipline, and technology worked together. Centuries later, stories of the ghostly Terran warship were still told. Children learning about interstellar history imagined the sleek vessel moving like a phantom through asteroid belts, striking decisively and vanishing without a trace. Officers studied tactical simulations based on the Aegis's battles, and historians debated how a single ship had managed to alter the course of a galactic conflict. The ship's legacy became a benchmark, a reminder that ingenuity and courage could turn the tide even in the darkest moments. The Aegis had achieved what no fleet could accomplish alone, and its memory continued to inspire hope, ambition, and determination across generations of Terrans. Though the USS Aegis itself was no longer active, its influence remained. The principles of strategy, teamwork, and human ingenuity it had demonstrated became the foundation of Terran military doctrine. Captain Alara Voss and her crew became eternal symbols of leadership and bravery. The ship's story was passed down through centuries as a legend of a single vessel that had changed history. Its ghostly presence in the minds of enemies and allies alike ensured that humanity's resilience, intelligence, and courage were never underestimated. The Aegis had made history, and its legacy would continue to shape the galaxy for generations to come.